Welcome to the Eric Bach Show, and today I'm thrilled to chat with Pat Hanigan. Pat comes from the fitness industry, but today he works the build before you break system strategy and is a co-founder of Coach Launch. He specializes not just in fitness, but in helping people understand the systems that can help optimize efficiency in their life and lead to better productivity, more fulfillment, and living a life of purpose. This wide-ranging conversation is going to talk about everything from his experience in the fitness industry, systems for life, systems for fitness, systems for fat loss, for better nutrition, and digging into AI and how you can use these tools effectively to maximize the effectiveness and efficiency in your life. We are jumping right in. If you love this episode, please drop us a 5-star review and let us know what else you would like to see. Pat, we are jumping right in here, man. Tell me about rock bottom.
When I think rock bottom, it's a funny thing because there is that like romantic notion of rock bottom. You know, like a lot of the movies and the stories we like, it's like the character hits rock bottom and has to crawl their way out. So I think that almost like anything when it comes to like true change, we have like I said, this romanticized notion of what it actually is, but that doesn't tell you at all what the feelings are. That doesn't tell you what the impact is, and that doesn't tell you what it actually feels like. So, I mean, I think for me, rock bottom, I would just define it as, there's two ways to be alone in the world. There's the good way where like you have complete authority, you have complete agency, and it doesn't matter. It's you on a mission. And then there's the opposite. Like you've been left behind by the world due to the fact that you don't have a mission, you don't have agency, you don't have control over your thoughts, your actions, and therefore the outcome. I mean, we never have a control over the outcome, but at least with the first two, you have a better shot at it. So, I mean, I think for me, rock bottom is just feeling like the world's turning and you're staying there in the same place, watching it turn without the ability to take a step to actually join it. And that can obviously be across any domain.
Yeah. I mean, that's a beautiful way of putting it. And one thing that I've seen and experienced is personal incongruence is what leads to rock bottom. Right? Not having clear-cut principles, acting incongruently with the person that you want to be, the way that you want to lead, the way that you want to feel. And every person can relate to at some point, or maybe even frequently, even if it's a small thing, feel like they're doing something that's incongruent with who they want to be and who they want to become as a person. And it's interesting because there's no better feeling than making a promise to yourself, to those who you love, to your greater meaning, and keeping it and crushing it, right? That's the power of purpose. There's no worse feeling than an incongruence. And I think one of the best ways to overcome these common struggles, this incongruence, and incongruence can be something as simple as like, hey, I'm supposed to be eating this as part of my nutrition protocol, and instead I had a stressful night and ate 5 brownies, right? And then judging yourself harshly on it and kind of getting stuck in that cycle. But I think the way around this is often creating systems. And you created a piece of content the other day that really stood out to me, right? You talked about systems first for sobriety and then systems for business. And these are things that are close to me personally, close to a lot of my clients. And that's what I really want to dig into here, because I think on the edge of rock bottom is where we start to reevaluate what are the things that we're doing? What needs to change? Because a lot of times it's not just being motivated. It's not just having an idea. And so let's dig into systems.
Yeah, I mean, I think systems, especially, both of us coming from a fitness background, we realize that if we have systems, it's a way for us to set ourselves apart from those we're competing with, just because we keep track of everything. We keep control of all the data. We don't lose leads. We actually get people walking on steps to get where they want to go. And then equally frustrating, we see our peers and friends who we want to succeed just ignore that and function essentially out of their brain and out of their notebook and hear their frustrations, understand their frustrations, but not watching them actually build a segmented pathway to get what they want to get. It's like that incongruence you mentioned earlier. That's a huge thing with business. People have this idea like, oh, I'm the next Alex Hormozy, but then it's just an idea. They're searching for the feeling. And so all their systems are based on feelings. There's no actual concrete pathway built for each segment of their business, which in 2025, there's many segments of every business. You have to do so many more things than if we were doing this in 1993 just to stay relevant.
Yes.
And that also means that if you're running off emotion, you're running out of your brain, that's a lot more stuff that can get lost.
%. And so the idea is almost that systems will set you free, right? And so what I want to do is kind of like segue this or break this into like thinking systems first for like fitness, right? Because then we can extrapolate these same ideas and principles and apply them. And one way I like to think about this a lot of times is like, let's talk about nutrition, right? A very powerful acronym to help develop important systems to help simplify your life is ADE: automate, delegate, and eliminate. And so one thing that I do, and I would like you to kind of chime in with your fitness experience on this as well, is like, what habits and decisions, maybe around food, can we automate? Okay, can we get meal delivery service? Can we eat the same things on repeat? what can we delegate? Can I hire Pat to tell me exactly what to eat so I don't have to spend all my day between, work meetings trying to decide, hey, should I have the crispy chicken sandwich or the grilled chicken? Which one? Which one's going to be better, right? And then eliminate. Are there things that are causing issues directly in our life that are creating more friction with us? And so what I want you to think about is like, what kind of systems would you recommend setting up for somebody who wants to simplify fitness, right? We covered nutrition a little bit there, but I think looking at fitness as a whole, this can be a really powerful concept.
Well, I mean, like I said, we just closed the gym 2 months ago, moved mostly online, and then obviously into the actual systems building for other businesses, which is a large reason why I had the ability to close the gym and walk away. But I think with fitness, with business, with anything, again, like going back to that incongruence, I think a lot of that exists because people don't actually take the time to realistically think about who they want to be, what their end goal is. They have the version that is hyper emotional based on, most of the time, it's just based on influence from other people. Peer pressure they felt in different parts of their life. You see I've had a lot of female clients who are, middle age, who are still acting out of stress around food that their mother gave them when they were under 10.
Yeah.
It's just these ingrained things that are not necessarily you, but they're in you. I think having a period at the beginning of every client relationship where we actually take the time to figure out who you actually are, how that manifests itself in your day-to-day life, and then how we can use those things, what we can learn from those things so we can actually find what we can automate, delegate, and eliminate. Because a lot of the times I found that people, if you start hot with somebody, like first session, it's like, okay, what do we want to eliminate? What are the bad habits?
Yeah.
That's not just a habit. There's a whole series of roots that go down that they're going to, as soon as stress comes, they're going to fall back into those patterns. And this is the same for you and I, and I'm sure multiple different aspects of our life. It's the process of defining who you are, defining who you want to be, and then from those two, point A to point B, we can actually start to construct the bridge. But until we have those points, we're just guessing, essentially.
No doubt. And do you feel like that's why so many people will consume a crazy amount of information when it comes to fitness, particularly these days, and feel like, hey, I know exactly what to do, but I'm not quite getting results?
Yeah, and I think I'm sure that's always been a part of the human condition, but I think with just the way, we have hyper information, hyper stimulation, just every time you log on any device, you're being hit with 17 different viewpoints, 17 different pieces of advice that, most likely are not from good sources for you. Not saying they're bad sources, but we're all so incredibly varied from every aspect of our being. It's not like we just plopped on Earth and it's like, okay, here are the first two humans named Pat and Eric. We have a whole family history that goes back thousands of years that could impact our metabolism and our digestion based on where our family came from. Like I'm 100% Irish Catholic, traditionally has a problem with celiac disease and gluten because all we ate was potatoes for a long time.
Yeah.
We have all these different roots that go down in different pathways that we need to account for. So the name of the book's going to slip me, but I read it in high school, I believe. It was kind of like it's called Amusing Ourselves to Death. And it was really just kind of like a scholar's take on essentially 1984 versus Brave New World and like where the world's actually going to go based on what's happening. And he has this great chapter called Information Action Overload. I mean, if you listen to Arctic Monkeys, they actually reference it in a song on an album. But it's essentially like we're going to the point where we're going to have so much information that it's going to overload our ability to actually take action. And I feel like we actually are at that point right now, especially with fitness. How many clients have you had who've every week they want to try a new completely contradictory diet to what they did the week before without building any consistency or any knowledge of self? So I think that search for information is good, but I think our means for searching for information right now, it's not necessarily bad. It's just new, it's overwhelming, and it's hard to navigate.
Very hard to navigate. That sounds like a book well before its time, by the way. If you read that in high school, I'm like, wow, I would love to see a rewrite, at this stage with the proliferation of AI.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where you're like, I don't think this actually needs a rewrite. I'll send you the link after we get off. It's a quick read, but it definitely is. It sticks with you.
No doubt, I would love to. I would love to see it because, for me, I was always a person. This is kind of funny, and you might have a similar story to this. But like when I first got started with like working out with training, I would grab like every muscle magazine, from Men's Fitness, Men's Health, Iron, like all this shit. And I had like a folder where I would rip out the actual like magazines, like articles or whatever. And I had it all in this folder. And so like I remember going to like the YMCA. I'm like 13 years old, like 85 pounds probably. And I would just piece together all these different workouts, right? It's like I would be in there forever. And in hindsight, like, I'm like, oh, wow, I had no fucking clue what I was doing, right? And I can't even imagine that now with social media because, like, I was grabbing it from these magazines, putting it together, going in and trying these different things. On one hand, I'm really grateful because it allowed me to experience a lot of different things. And my obsession allowed me to get really good at what I do at a young age and find good information and quality stuff. But I also look at it now where it's like, if I was that same kid pulling up TikTok or Instagram and I see all these different things, and then like I got these evidence based people saying, like, hey, you have to do everything with 2 reps in reserve and hit 10 to 20 work sets per muscle group, I'd be like, trying to put together this perfect routine and be so overwhelmed and feel like I know what to do, but not have a plan for results. And so, what I'm getting at here is like simplicity is often the ultimate sophistication for the things that we need to do. And many people skip over those components really when it comes to the fitness side of things because they find this new exciting thing that's being positioned as the best way to do it. And this overwhelm, not just in fitness, but in society at large, I think is such a stress point because we're comparing ourselves to so many people. We are consuming so much information, even if it's great to have access to it. Yet, even though we are blessed with a lot of knowledge, we don't have a lot of wisdom on how to apply it.
Yeah, of course. And I think your story of being 13 and obsessed, I think I mean, that's the process of identity change, isn't it? It's like you have to go all in. You have to consume so much that you can actually develop your own filter and build that base of education based in not just theory with a lot of the evidence-based people, not to throw any shade, but I don't own a gym, so I guess I can say that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're building your process. It's a filtration system that you built based on your experience over years. I think that a lot of adults who mostly we work with don't have that luxury because they don't that's a time consuming process that's both physically and mentally. And so that search for simplicity has to be number one. Most people are going to get better results from taking one step consistently for 6 weeks and then adding a second than they are from trying to do 12 steps every day for 6 weeks, only hitting 2 of them and 1 of them and 3 of them and 6 of them 1% of the time each. So simplicity in general is something to aim for in life. It seems like that's the path to feeling fulfilled and happy because you have one target to aim at. You have one purpose as opposed to having, a whole army of targets you have to hit that you're not even sure if that army is against you or for you.
Yeah, that's such a key point. Multiple really good key points in there. And when you saw me turn around and grab something off my desk, I was actually grabbing Mastery by Robert Greene, which is the first time I've ever read this book in about 10 years. And one thing that he talks about that we can connect here and like this idea of like learning how obsession over a topic can really like build just that huge base of knowledge that allows you to become a specialist and truly a master of whatever it is, whether it's accounting, whether it's like business development, marketing, whatever, right? And he talks about back in say medieval times when all the cathedrals were being built, that so many of the great artists that essentially what happened is, kids would be sent away and they would endure an apprenticeship for 5 to 7, sometimes even 9 years. And they a lot of times did not have texts. They did not have written information. They picked everything up through action, right? Mirror neurons, right? We talk about from a sports world. I'm a, diehard Green Bay Packers fan, right? And so
Sorry
like,
about that.
it's all right, man. We do okay. But like, we have one good quarterback after another. And
Yeah,
people are like, okay, how do they keep hitting this? Well, if we think about it, right? Like Aaron Rodgers, even though he's sitting on the bench, was able to look at, analyze, see, pick up all these little subtleties in the game of Brett Favre that you would see in his game later on when he came in as a mechanically stiff quarterback who fell in the draft. Jordan Love, like wild arm, crazy talent, kind of like a Gumby overall like position and whatnot, just the way that he throws off balance and all of these things, really kind of rare. Yeah. And yet he picks up many of these same also nuances directly from just watching Aaron Rodgers and not playing through this time frame. And what this is our mirror neurons. This is our body like picking up expertise around us and learning these different habits and things that we see. And this is so important because if we look at it from the quarterback perspective, it's like being able to mirror expertise and starting to do these things and ingrain them on a physical sense, not just consuming information, that's part of it, but actually doing it. And it was also something that we'd see with a lot of the great artists that create some of the greatest arts and pieces of architecture of all time. It didn't come from just consuming a ton of information. It came from getting your hands dirty and doing those things specifically. And this is so important because we have a lot of people that are doing the consumption component, but they're not getting the action component because they're overwhelmed by what is actually important on what they need to do. And that kind of ties into, again, having systems, having things that are clear cut and like, these are the simple things we need to operate on here. Because once we master those basic foundational components, it could be as simple as like eating your protein, drinking your water, eating more vegetables, right? Then the complexity of like, okay, now how many calories should I have? When should I time these meals? And if we skip those foundational components, we never get to the point where it actually makes sense to attach all these high level training programs, nutrition programs, even business models, right? Because we haven't nailed those aspects.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I'm an Eagles fan. So,
Yeah.
Similar systematic approach. I mean, if you look at the Eagles over the last 10, 15 years, they've been one of the top 5 teams mostly every year. 4 or 5 different starting quarterbacks, different running back every year. but it's because they adhere to the simple principles. Like, how are we going to build this team? Oh, we're just going to have the best offensive line and best defensive line in the league. Most likely, we will be a playoff team regardless of who's behind center. So that both of those, like the
Yeah,
Packers giving their quarterbacks the ability to sit and learn, which is a luxury now. It might not be a luxury, but it's very counterintuitive to how most other teams operate. They're like, we have to take a quarterback with a high draft pick, and he has to play right away.
yep,
He's going to be thrown to the wolves, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. We see that it's mostly a bad thing. I mean, history and stats
totally.
will show you that, and it's no different with us. It's like with us, with people with goals, especially fitness. It's if you can't do the basic stuff, it's not going to matter at all. So, I'm sure you have people that sign up. I've had many people sign up, and after their first week, it's like, okay, like I haven't hit the calories once. I haven't done any of the habits, but like, what type of coffee creamer should I use? And it's like, don't expend that mental energy on something that is level 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 when you haven't even taken the steps to begin level 1. It's that everything is just so, we have the ability, like AI technology, just the personal computing in general has made a lot of abilities accessible to everybody. So that means that a lot of the stuff people are seeing on social media is amazingly made. It's sexy, it's appealing, a lot of it's been crafted to hook their attention. I mean, not a lot of it. All the stuff they see, if they're seeing it, it's because it's hooking their attention. So they're competing with this super sexy high level thing that they saw that's going to stick in their head because it was designed to be that way, versus actually thinking about how did this person get to this step? Is this step applicable to me, or do I have a couple steps until I get to that? And people always want to go level 10, whether that's any hobby they have, especially in business and
Yeah,
especially with fitness as well.
yep. You gotta nail the foundation. Otherwise, all the sexy stuff, it doesn't necessarily matter. And
And
the
it's
difficult thing,
gonna sabotage you essentially. You're gonna sabotage yourself because, like you said earlier, you're gonna be frustrated. You're gonna compare yourself. You're gonna feel like a failure for attempting something you were not even prepared to attempt.
yeah, that's something we see so often on the training side of things, right? And this is why I'm such a fan of like just building a baseline foundation of strength. And that's kind of a term or like a phrase that gets thrown out. But like essentially what I mean is like you should get strong as fuck on basic things. Like
Mhm.
if you're not, it doesn't matter how cool the other program is. And, again, not to get like too tactical in some of this stuff, but it's like, pick any hip hinge movement that you want, like a trap bar deadlift, a deadlift, a Romanian deadlift, whatever, right? To me, like strong would be, can you move 1.5, 2+ times your body weight for multiple reps on that, right? If you're not, you probably don't need like crazy drop sets and cluster training and all of these things. It's like, just build a really simple foundation and get strong, and everything else is going to come together. It just comes together with those simple components, man.
It's funny with that too. I obviously adhere strongly to that philosophy, but it's like if you actually spend the time to build that base of strength, your workouts are going to be hard. You're going to feel the way you want to feel. On paper it's going to look simple, but paper and
Yeah.
execution are two completely different things.
One of my mentors always had the phrase feel versus real, right? And so feel would be going through a workout and feeling like, oh yeah, I'm working so hard, I'm heaving and hawing, I'm out of breath, I just did a shitload of burpees, I did a ton of reps, and then feeling soreness the next day because it gives you that immediate tactile feedback of like, oh, I work my body hard. But real, did you create the stimulus that we're actually wanting? Did we create progressive overload? Did we activate these muscles? Did we, generate force and fully recover from it and generate high levels of force again? Completely different things. And those are little nuanced details that you can't get until you become a master of something and really stick with a very simple system in the beginning to build those foundational components. And the same aspect bleeds over into nutrition. And what I want to talk about next into business, because that's something that you've kind of shifted and talk a lot more about now with your business, right? And in business, how many times do people get bogged down with every tactile little thing? Every like, what should my logo look like? What should my design be? What should this look like? Like, hey, can we simplify this? And so let's talk about business systems and what you're doing now.
Of course, yeah. So, Steve Krebs and I started a company called Coach Launch about 2 years ago. We had it completely silent for a little bit, just because we got an organic influx of clients, and we were like, we can't realize again back to systems. Our
Good
system
for
can't
you.
handle an influx of people, so we're going to use this initial 10, 15, 20 clients to perfect our systems. Like we know what they are on paper, we know what we've built, but how does this actually in real life with a lot of people? How do we get these systems deployed pretty quickly? So I dove into AI very quickly. I was one of the first 200 paid users of ChatGPT.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the gym. Our Jack's Fit was a semi-private gym. We had a 4,000 square foot facility. I'm from Philadelphia, but I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, and
Yeah.
it's impossible to have to hire trainers because the industry does not exist down here. Completely different from where I came from in Philly. Very competitive industry. I could throw a rock on the street and hit 12 trainers who you could hire and have for years because they're, professional. But
Yeah.
down here, it's a very spread out city. So there aren't those multiple jobs that people can have to make a living. Like I teach a spin class for 3 hours, then I train people, then I go do group
Mhm.
fitness at 3 different locations. So you can get that experience to become a professional. It just doesn't exist down here. So our biggest bottleneck was always staff. And so I viewed AI obviously as a way to complete tasks that I needed to complete. So if I needed to be on the floor more often than I was scheduled to, it wouldn't hinder the growth of the business. And very quickly with AI, obviously it's a language based model. It's all built off language. And as coaches, we have the tactics, we know, we have the expertise in things, but really what we are, like good coaches, it's like we're behavior change experts. And that
Yeah.
only happens through language. So I very quickly realized that creating AI models, training AI to, build the systems that I wanted to build, move data right places, make sure people got the things they needed to get was not dissimilar from coaching a semi-private session at all. It was, clear communication, starting point, outcome, bullet point steps of how to get there. And so I built a couple AI systems that, I built a couple systems that are used by people with much bigger platforms and followings than myself who have been using it for years. We shifted a lot of that into just kind of a general is probably the wrong term because it's all coach specific system for all the marketing stuff you need to do, everything that entails besides paid ads. I would not
Yeah.
trust AI to run a paid ad, maybe to write the copy, but the email stuff so you can actually people know you exist, your website copy, the lead flow, lead magnets, getting leads, and then the customer service. Like I was the first person to create a text-based AI nutrition coach essentially
Yeah.
where we have a couple numbers for a couple of our clients where their clients can text like, hey, I'm at, Moe's in Phoenix, Arizona. Here's my calories for the day. What can I order that's not going to mess me up? And they get an answer in real time.
Very cool.
Not replacing the coach. It's just giving more people access to that portion of the coach's brain that they need in that moment. So people get better results. The coach has fewer emails that they ignore for 6 hours, then feel guilty about. And there's none of that friction between the coach and the client. In a situation like that where it's like, we have to go out, the client has to go out to lunch for a work event. They don't know what to order. They're going to feel too bad to email you or call you. If they do email you or call you, most likely you're busy. You can't get back in time. So just removing what I've said in my head and the way I told my clients is like, we're removing your excuse. You're not bothering anybody. This is
Love it.
not something we built that's, built off bullshit just to get a task done. This is something built based off the philosophy that you've already been taught, been trained in, so you can have easier access to the information you need in real time 24 hours a day. So it's a whole bunch of systems like that intertwined under one platform essentially. So there's no, we've built a system that replaces almost every tech subscription that you need to have under
Yeah.
one roof. So it's all right there. No leads get lost, miscommunication happens, nothing like that. But it's essentially it's a simple system that's enhanced by, I call it ethical AI, because we're not trying to use AI to pretend to be something we're not. We're
Yeah.
using AI to essentially build our megaphone on our expertise.
I love that. And I think that's a really powerful topic because the way that I view I mean, I get clients who ask questions like, hey, like to what aspects do we use AI directly in the coaching? How do you leverage it? Other folks are, business, professionals, and they're using different levels of AI for financial models and all of these different things. Obviously, it's changing the world dramatically and at a rapid speed and will continue to evolve. And like one of the biggest ways I describe AI when I'm talking to other people around it, it's like AI allows us to automate like rote memorization and even like individual IP in a way where it's systematic, it's convenient, and it's congruent. Right. So, for example, we have some different marketing AIs that we've created for our business. And so, what do I do? Well, because I am super type A and anal, right, I will download all of our emails from every single month for the last 10 years and upload them into a bot. And we can have email copy created. We can go through different hooks. We can find out what's worked. We can look at the data analysis. I can run my business numbers directly through. I look at profit margins, cost per lead, lead to call book ratio, all of these little things. And if you know how to prompt and do some of these different aspects, you now have systems that can replace basically a high level board or a CFO to really tell you where the issues are directly in business. And the same thing can happen with fitness if you have the right information, right? If you know how to prompt, if you know what to look for as well, because the models aren't perfect. But I think what's really cool about this is like when you start to develop these AI systems, you can have a lot more efficiency. You mentioned getting rid of multiple pieces of software. Like, I don't know about you, but since AI like really started blowing up, like the number of subscriptions I have for business things has been cut down by about 90%.
Great, isn't it?
Yeah. And so like it saves time, it saves money, and it saves headspace because now with the right AI type systems with our business, for an example, yeah, a lot of the knowledge and the stuff like that that we're continuously researching and uploading programs into these different, models that we've created, it allows us to have more personal interaction with our clients, right? Because like the knowledge transfer we can get, but if we have more time where we can have conversations, where we can go deeper, that's what makes such a big difference. And that's the beautiful thing about systems in any regard, because as you get smarter, you can develop systems to optimize what you already have. Yeah, you'll have to go back and go from there, but it allows you to have more personality. It allows you to have more structure, more repeatable structure into things that you're doing and grow from there.
Yeah, it's AI is funny in fitness specifically because you see so many people who are either using it for everything without having any expertise in any area
Yeah.
that so they're essentially using it to become something they're not. And then there's the guys who are maybe like 20 years older than us who are like, fuck AI. It can never
Yeah.
replace me. It can't write a program and like me. But both of them are correct. But it really comes down to the specificity of use. Like you said, all the AI you use is built off information you've created. It's built off content you've created. So essentially, you're just building a second brain that has processing ability at 10 o'clock at night after you've been with 8 clients in the day. Your daughter was sick, your wife's tired, all these things that come up in life. And your brain, your synapses are not firing anymore. You're exhausted. You're like, if I write this email now, it's going to sound like crap, but I have to write it.
Exactly.
It gives you that ability to have that second brain to, and most of the time, I'm sure you find the same thing. Like when you're using AI for creative, when it's built off you, when it's essentially like an AI version of your content, email specific portion of your brain, most of the time when you ask it to write something, that doesn't even end up what gets sent out. It's mostly just like, it's giving you an idea that you are going to expand upon in your words. But there's the benefits to AI are obviously almost, we can't even count how many there are, but it comes down to, like I said, the specific way you use it and that intentionality behind it, like having that ethical basis of understanding this is not a magic tool. If I misuse it, it's going to misuse me. The stuff I put out is going to be completely incongruent with who I am and completely fake, essentially.
Yeah.
But you use it intentionally. If you build it intentionally for specific use, it's just going to be a tool that gets stuff done quicker, allows you to maybe not even have a VA anymore because all the information you need is right there. And it allows you to refresh your brain when you need it, basically.
Exactly. It works as a second brain. Now, you have to know the information you're feeding into it. Like if you go through and you say, hey, create me a coaching program on this with just a chat GPT prompt, chances are it's going to be an unmitigated disaster, right? I've seen plenty of those because you don't understand the context of everything else that goes into it. Same thing with a nutrition plan, right? Like, yeah, you might get some like general direction with it, but unless you really know how to prompt and understand what you're looking at really from a whole, that's where issues come in. But it's such a powerful tool in general to systematize knowledge, to systematize delivery, and to streamline life. And I think the busier that we get, right, the more inputs that come into our lives, the more important these systems, whether it's AI or anything else, is going to become. And so when talking about systems more directly, what I'd like to jump into now, it would be like some daily systems for operating, right? Like we've talked a little bit about business, we've talked a bit about fitness, but with you individually, like, do you have any daily systems such as like morning routines, evening shutdown rituals, meal prep systems, anything else that you personally do to simplify your life so you can be present with your family, continue to stay healthy, and then grow this business?
I mean, for me, my morning routine, I've obviously been in fitness since I was 19, the only job I've ever had. Tried
Yeah.
all the morning routines, listened to everything, tried everything. For me, everything is just simplicity now. Over the course of the years, my whole daily philosophy, my whole daily system is based on what are the things that I actually do that make me feel like the person I want to feel like. And that doesn't, so I know for me to have a good day, most likely, not most likely, the days that I have training days penciled in, which 4 days a week, I wake up, I take a shower, I don't even check my email. I just get mentally ready, and then I go to the gym at 5:30. I know
Yep.
that while I'm there, headphones with the music I like makes a huge difference in my mood for the day. Something as simple as that. My thought process is much more clear if I've had that, the input that I like, and it blocks out the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Obviously, it makes a better workout, but for me personally, that actually makes the rest of my day more productive. After that, I'm very task based. So I guess I'm very productivity based. So I have a system that I've built, an AI based system that essentially functions as my second brain, where I'll list out all the tasks I have for the week as they come up. It keeps track of them, breaks it down into daily to do lists, and then it puts it actually on my schedule. So I know that every day I'm at the gym, I'm there at 5:30. I'm going to start work at 8 a.m. It's going to have my tasks listed out in the order that I've programmed it to, my essential, my best productivity lineup, we'll call it.
Yeah.
And that's how simple I am. So it's all, obviously we've launched Coach Launch, so it's a lot of that early stage task stuff right now. So a lot of communication, a lot of reach out, a lot of you know refining our message basically.
Yeah.
So for business wise, that's my excuse me, biggest system. When it comes to meals and things, I'm also boringly simple. Like if my wife told me like, "Hey, we're only eating, ground beef and potatoes," fine with it. If we're only eating chicken and rice, I'd be fine with it as well. But for my personal meal stuff, what I've always done, and I gave it this douchey name on purpose, I call it the intermittent carnivore diet, which is
Yeah.
basically I don't consume a lot of carbs during the day, so at dinner I don't have to worry about it.
I like
Not
it.
not
Yeah.
very regimented in terms of tracking calories or anything right now, but I have the luxury of having 15 years of rigorously tracking my calories, so I know that I'm roughly in a ballpark. I also don't have very strict physical goals right now. You know,
Yeah.
and then for what we've AI for family use is actually pretty great in terms of both finding things to do, like
Yes.
activities and things like that. And I mean, we're a screen free house for our kids. People either like, "Oh, that's so cool," or like, "Hey, screw you guys." We've just found when it comes to systems that we don't like the way that screens and TV impacts our daughter's behavior. So we just have no screens. We have books and we have imagination basically. But
Yeah.
with the girls, it's obviously, they're 4 and 6, so going into preschool and first grade in a couple weeks. Technology is going to be a huge part of their life. AI is going to be a huge part of their life. I don't want to have them sit down in front of a computer. We don't have tablets for them, but what we'll do is we will either get on my laptop or get on my phone and we'll make coloring book pages on AI that they want to do, right?
Literally do the same thing. I'm like, yes. Yeah, my daughter loves it, man. It's such a good
But like
experience.
they get to use their imagination to have an end goal, and then we figure out how to describe it to get what they want out of it. We print it out, they color it in, things like that. And also, like with kid sickness, ChatGPT is very helpful. As
Yeah.
long as you put in like the actual history of the child, not just using it like WebMD. But and I'm sure we're only scratching the surface with that.
For
Well,
sure.
for meal prep too, I mean, with ChatGPT, you have the ability to take a picture of the stuff in your fridge and be like, "Hey, I need a low calorie option. What can I actually make with these things in my fridge?" And it will give you a couple pretty darn good options.
Yeah. I mean, those are awesome use cases, things that we use as well, right? Like, I'll have my daughter, she'll come in, and I got a new printer recently. So she's like, oh my God, this is so cool. And I'd be like, hey, I'm like, can you give me like your favorite animal? Okay, give me some food, give me some colors. What else do you want? And like, just these abstract drawings, completely random shit from the mind of a 5 year old.
But it's
And
awesome.
it's wonderful, right? So we print it out. She colors them, has a great time, and it's a good way to kind of leverage technology and kind of show her how something like this works without putting her in front of a screen. And
Yeah,
I mean, we're not completely off of screens at our house, right? Like, so I mean, she'll watch like some cartoons and stuff like that, but we don't do tablets. We don't do tablets at a restaurant because we want to be able to learn those social interactions and those
yeah.
skills that are
Be bored,
that are
child.
wrong.
It'll help you in the long run.
Oh my god, I could go on a rant on this, and I totally empathize with parents who have young kids who are stressed out, who just want to have like a moment to themselves. Like, I totally get that.
Yeah, of course.
Also,
Yeah, it's
also
like
like,
we get that we're all stressed, but like that's a person. That's not an accessory. Think of their
yep,
long term development. Like, what's the person that you want them to be when they're in high school, when they're in college, when they're an adult? So, I think the ability to be bored, it kind of ties into everything we've been talking about. This overstimulation, just this. It's really like everything is turned into a dopamine hunt. Like
oh,
scrolling
100%.
releases dopamine. I mean, what's that Jonathan Haidt book? It's like the dumbing down of the coddling of the American mind. He has a great
Such a
chapter.
good book.
It's
Yeah,
like I'm surprised that is not like the bestseller every year since it came out.
yeah,
But just the chapter on dopamine release and how it essentially triggers like evolutionary mechanisms in both sexes that essentially feels like a tangible reward for doing nothing. Like that's not a habit I want my kids to be in. I'd rather them be frustrated, be bored, but then a half hour later they figured out the thing that they wanted to figure out, whether it's how to draw whatever it may be, or how to build something. I think that,
Yeah,
that skill set is, I mean, that's essentially the skill set that we're trying to get at with our clients, with fitness, with business and everything. It's the ability to see things simply, take the steps you need to take to get there, and not get overwhelmed and not get distracted by things that are just built to sap your attention.
exactly. And the better systems we build, once we develop those foundational skills, the more easy they are to automate, right? And so, like, I always think of it from a simple perspective of like simple daily systems and morning routine, right? Can we start having a healthier morning? I know people like to shit on morning routines because it's like there's so many biohacking things that are out there, but like, can it be as simple as waking up, having a glass of water, and going for a walk? Like, if you do that, like you're proactively reducing stress, you're getting movement, you're hydrating your body, you're in a much better space, right? And so it's like an idea and a simple way to get healthier would be a very simple morning routine. A very simple daily structure and system in the evening could be an end of day alarm. This is something I picked up from Craig Ballantyne, where you write out your schedule for the next day, right? I've even got a calendar like right here with everything written down. Write down everything that needs to happen, what are your top 3 priorities, and just take 5 or 10 minutes and dump everything that's in your brain out so you're not sitting in bed at 10 o'clock at night ruminating on all the shit that's popping up now, right? Again, very simple systems to clear out the mental clutter, which allow you to execute things at a higher level. Because ultimately, mastery in anything, whether it's business, whether it's fitness, whether it's parenting and being present and building better relationships, it comes down to doing a few things incredibly well and having the systems to reinforce those foundations without taking the headspace for them. But the only way that we get there is simplicity and presence and setting up those systems so we don't have to rely on things like motivation and willpower when they're constantly being zapped in the modern society in the way that everything is running. And I think AI is going to be an incredibly powerful tool to help build those systems, but by extension, also simplify some of the execution on things that we have to do on a regular basis to open up higher level brain function and I think more humanity, which is something that we all can relate to and need at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I think the future of AI is equally terrifying and beneficial. It all depends on, who uses it, how we use it, and, obviously based on the patterns of the last decade of maybe like the things we see, we're not as optimistic about it. But I think that regardless of like what the general picture is of like how it's used, obviously there's going to be a whole bunch of fake stuff. Like your ability to, determine whether something's real or not is getting harder by the day because the technology advances at an immense pace.
Yep.
But if you can also use it to tune those things out. You can also use it to simplify your life, your purpose, and your daily steps.
Yeah. I mean, that's the beautiful thing with it, man. Beautiful thing with it. So, Pat, this has been really helpful. We've talked about a number of wide ranging topics here. I mean, I've got all these notes here of us going over like different systems and how we can implement things for health. And I think ultimately the key is like systems can set you free. AI can provide a second brain and provide more foundational components. But ultimately, what we have to do these things for is be clear on what our principles are, be clear on what matters to us, and then set up our day and our structure around that. And that's ultimately what leads us to be more successful physically, financially, and I think most importantly, with our relationships and those around us. Anything that you would add onto that?
No, I think that just the taking the time to actually figure out what you actually want with all these systems is very overlooked because you can't make a cool reel about it. You can't really, it's not, you can't turn it into, I mean, you can, but it's not going to be the content that people are going to consume. And we live in like, the world is content now, unfortunately. But I think that if you focus too much on that, focus too much on what you're seeing and other people's endpoints, and actually take the time to figure out who you are, what you stand for, and who you realistically want to be, not like in a fantasy world, but who you realistically can be and want to be. And that's not me telling people to aim low by any means. It's just aim high, but aim high that's actually in alignment with who you are and who you can be. I think that period of reflection, that period of stress, and oftentimes it feels like failure, but it's not. It's just exploration, is very overlooked in everything. And I think that without having that solid definition, that simple, fundamental definition, the systems could potentially hurt you. But if we have a strong, true definition of who we are, what we want, and what our actual, obstacles are, that's how we can actually build systems to overcome those obstacles and then climb even higher than.
I love that. So much of it comes down to clarity and simplicity. Yet those are things that both AI and systems can help us achieve. Pat, where can we find out more about you?
So I'm on Instagram at pat.hanigan, and you can check out Coach Launch at coachlaunch.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I can't wait for the Packers and Eagles to get together again. Those were good games both times last year. And, as long as Dallas does not win and as long as the Vikings and the Bears also suck, I'm going to be very happy.
Yeah, I think, Bears signed DeAndre Swift. He went to my high school, so That's
Man.
that's my lone warm spot there.
Hey, I get it. I get it, man. He was a beast over at Georgia, by the way. And geez, because we're talking about football again, and you're talking between the trenches. One of the biggest things with the most successful teams in college football is not necessarily elite guys on the skill side. It's a very elite defensive line. And so if you always look at the teams that have the best rosters time and time again, like look at the last few national championships. I mean, super deep line, Michigan 2 years ago. Somewhat this last year with Ohio State, they have just so many freaks everywhere on that particular roster. But like Georgia, which you can relate to as an Eagles fan,
Yeah, they're
like,
all there now.
right? It's crazy. It's crazy. And the rest are in Green Bay with like Devontae Wyatt. They got Warren Brinson. They got Nazir Stackhouse like this year. So it's like, anyway, we look at those foundational things. Much like a team finds those, man, you just got to define what your trenches are for you in your life, and you'll be in a good spot.
Yes, it's going back to that. We've been in Jacksonville for like a decade. My wife's from here, but this past draft, they traded all that draft capital to move up to the second pick to take a luxury player when they could have had 3 starting caliber interior defensive linemen and interior offensive linemen if they just waited.
Yep.
And I mean, yeah, obviously it's going to sell seats. It looks good on the posters to have Travis Hunter, but for long-term success, I don't know how you make that deal in your head. That's the same thing that everybody's excuse me, that's the same thing that most people fall victim to. It's the sexy choice or the one that's actually going to help you.
Yep. It's like you get the quarterback, but you don't support the quarterback with a good offensive line. And that quarterback, Trevor Lawrence in this case, if he has the right people around him, like he's going to be really good, but he's been running for his life for 5.5 years, So yeah. Great point. Great point. Awesome, Pat. Thank you so much, man. We'll have to do another follow-up and just talk shit about sports and have a good time, man.
Sounds great, man. I appreciate it.
All right, dude. I'll catch you later. Thank you.